Hello, cosmic beings. Welcome to Being Cosmic. If this is your first time here, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. I am so glad that each and every one of you are here. My name is Devon, and I will be doing a collective message today. So, with that, take what resonates and leave what doesn't. Um, okay, so this message is a little different. I may or may not use cards, we'll see. But basically, I was hearing like ego death, identity crisis, things of that nature, which it's a part of this journey when you're walking the spiritual journey. It's breaking down all of those things that we used to identify as to find who we really are. And I have some notes here. So it's that concept of losing your mind to find your soul. And it's kind of a real thing. um it's breaking down all of these things that you were attached to and tapping into that soul part of the self. um it's normal at some point on the journey to ask if you're losing it or if you're going crazy or kind of have those thoughts. So if you're feeling that right now, just know that's normal. Th- That being said, because we're talking mental health, if you are concerned with your health in any way, seek out professional advice. I'm not offering medical advice or mental health advice. I'm just telling you from an energetic standpoint, a spiritual standpoint, kind of what's going on. Okay. Um, so, what I'm picking up for a lot of you, you could be in the void. And this is a really weird space. So, this is when the old identity is crumbling, the old version of self is crumbling, and then the new version of self hasn't fully anchored in yet. Um, so if that's the case, just do your best to be gentle with yourself right now. Understand that you're literally breaking down a version of reality that you used to identify with. So it's not exactly an easy thing to do. Um, but it is very rewarding. Um, it's just yeah, be gentle with yourself, be kind to yourself. Okay. Oh yes. So I would highly recommend seeking out a spiritual coach or mentor, somebody who has experience with this, who can assist you through this process. It'll make it a little bit easier. Somebody who can kind of shed some light on what is happening. Um, there's lots of different coaches and mentors out there. I'm actually looking at opening up my coaching and mentorship program again. So if you are interested in working with me, you can send me an email and we can kind of talk about that. So, little side note. Um, and you are getting divine guidance right now. So that is a huge part of this. You are getting guidance. You are probably seeing signs, synchronicities, things like that, to help you kind of through this process because it is so mind bending, like in a real way. Um, so pay attention to that. I would highly recommend writing some of that down so that you can kind of look back later. Um, I'm getting that you're kind of in the midst of that fog right now. Not entirely sure where to go from here. And just know that it will become clearer the more you let go of what you were attaching to. Oftentimes we have our identity wrapped in titles, external validation, things like that. So examples, well, some examples are like a parent, your job, education, even sports teams. We identify with being a certain sports team fan. Stuff like that. It can be even music, this type of music you like, and then you attach an identity to it. Part of your identity is the type of music you listen to. Um, and so all of these things they're superficial in a way, and you are so much more than that. You're a multidimensional being having a human experience. So you're way beyond these things that you've told yourself you are, or that society has told you you are, or people in your life have told you you are. Um, and part of this process that you're going through is breaking that down so that you can tap into that soul self. and then tap into things like your soul mission, living your purpose, um, so on and so forth. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to give you, personal examples. All right. So I was attached to, being a mother, being a daughter, being a wife, being a performer, musician, a biologist. I was very athletic. I was a snowboarder. I was a swimmer, so on and so forth. And then I also would identify with past traumas, right? Childhood traumas. And that was, what made up who I was. And then I was having identity breakdowns and ego breakdowns for a while. And then I actually story time. I fell off a ladder. Well, I was I was getting onto the roof to help fix some siding that was blown down during like a blizzard. And as I went to step onto the roof, the ladder slid and I free fell about 10 feet and landed on my back on concrete, smacked my head really hard, broke my foot. Um, and it was a long, painful physical healing journey from there. And a lot of these things that I was still attaching to that I didn't realize I could no longer do. So I couldn't snowboard. I couldn't dance. I couldn't walk. Um, my recall for like certain things that I had learned in school and stuff like that, when I was going to university, I couldn't recall a lot of it. I was really slow because I hit my head so hard. And so, it was like stripped away. And um, it was really difficult. And even now, I still have, some limitations. I have to be very mindful. I have to pay attention to my body. I have to listen to my foot and, make sure, well, my feet really, because I was hobbling for so long, for like 3 years. And then I gave myself plantar fasciitis in the other foot. And so there was a period of time where every step I took was excruciatingly painful. And it was like there was times when I would have to crawl to the bathroom. It was really rough. Anyways, um, but now it's different because I can do some of those things. I can swim again, Haven't quite been able to snowboard yet, but there's a yet there. I can dance a little bit again. I can, do certain things with my daughter and play outside again. I'm not exactly running after her or anything like that, but I can walk. I can, you know, lightly jog. Certain things like that. And so, of course, for me, it brings a different level of appreciation because I'm like, I wasn't able to do a lot of this and now I can. Um, but my point here is I have a stubborn streak. Been changing that into tenacity and, determination versus actual stubbornness. But for me, it was like that was part of the process. I literally had to go through that. And it was an NDE, it was near death experience. Um, I had to go through that in order to fully release all of these things that I was attaching to. And then, now it's just a different experience because I wasn't able to do so much for so long that now that I can, it's like, okay, I'm going to go for my walk because I can. I'm going to dance a little bit because I can. It's not a chore anymore. Running up and down the stairs, like I can do that now. It's, I'm not crawling up the stairs anymore. So point is, if you can learn through my experience and not have to free fall 10 feet and, go through a 4 to 5 year healing journey, I would highly recommend it. And so with that, it's looking at all of these things. When you ask the question, who am I? What comes up? Is it your occupation? Is it your one of these labels, a child of, like a child or a parent or a sibling or you know there's so many things that we wrap our identity up in, and it's not really who we are. It's a mask that we're wearing. It's a role that we're fulfilling. And so that doesn't mean I'm no longer a mother. It's just that's not what I'm attaching to. It's, I am a multidimensional being having a human experience and I'm choosing to be a mother. and show up in that role, but that's not who I am. And so that's where it's really it's a difficult thing to do, but the more you do it, the easier it is. And this is where really tapping into that divine guidance and understanding that you have that guidance for a reason. You're going through this for a reason. You're going into this void. You're in the space that you're in. You're having an ego identity crisis because you're being asked to release those limitations, because that's ultimately what it is. It's limiting. So if you are this person and your identity is your occupation, it's very limiting. And then when you release that, you might still do that occupation, but that's no longer your identity. And then that's when you really tap into your more authentic self, your soul self, and then let that shine through. And it's more of a exciting, peaceful type of experience. You don't take things so intensely. Life isn't such a thing. It's not so, it's like life is lifing, you know? Um, and it makes it easier because it's not so much like the pressure isn't there. You don't have to, wake up in the morning and do all these things because this is what makes me me. This is what makes you you. So you have to go do this thing and show up in this way and be available to this person and all of these other things. You can start to tap in and go, okay, what do I actually want to experience? What did my soul come here to experience? And, that's oftentimes when those childhood dreams will come back online. Maybe they come back online in a different way. Maybe it's not exactly what you thought of doing as a child, but it's similar. Um, for me, this is an example. So I wanted to be a performer since as far back as I can remember. That was what I wanted to do, was to be on stage and sing and dance and perform and, and act, because I really liked acting as well. And now I'm still performing in a way, but it's not really a performance. It's just me being authentic and guiding other people along this journey. So I'm still, in the spotlight in a way. I'm still putting myself out there. I'm still being seen, but it's in a different way. It's in a more soul-led way versus I want to be a performer because that felt good to my ego. Um, and also I am being shown, I would highly recommend to look into your north node and your south node. This is something you can find through your astrology. It's by the year that you were born. And so that's also going to help shed some light on tapping into the soul expression. So it's like what your soul wants to experience here. So my example is I was a Leo south, well, I am a Leo South Node and an Aquarius North Node. So Leo South Node is me being on stage and performing and being, a celebrity. Me being an Aquarius North Node is me still doing a version of that, but instead it's more humanitarian. It's more helping the collective versus needing to be center stage on a stage. So, it's that kind of thing can just help shed some light and give you some guidance. So, okay, well, with that, I'm actually not going to pull any cards. I'm going to go ahead and just leave this here. So, I'm wishing you all the best. You got this. You're a multidimensional being having a human experience. Remember that. And yeah, so if you like this message, feel free to hit that like button. It does help out the channel, so thank you. And if you would like to see more from me, you can hit subscribe. It is free, and I will see you on the next message. Bye.